All right, welcome back to another video of the LandRover series. In this video, we're going to be making a new frame section, chopping off the old S10 rear frame section, adding the new frame to the S10 frame, putting the rear suspension in it, and sticking the motor in it, and then coming up with a plan for the next video. All right, so that's the basic frame setup. You saw me mock it up in the time lapse, but that's the basic shape of it. This will kick down, this will be the bumper, the box will attach to the bottoms here. And that's it. And that 35.5 inches between these two frame rails will fit within the S10 frame sitting over there. So let's do some more time lapse and mock this thing up. Well, it's almost back together now. After lots of cutting and measuring, and I've got the two frames overlapped together there now. And that gives me a really good spot to weld them together, and I'll end up trimming this off and whatnot, but there's still more measuring to do. So I'm not 100% that I've got perfect door gaps. So I'll get the doors up in there, make sure I've got perfect door gaps, and then I'll commit to welding the frames together. Right now, this body line, this crease here, and the front fender is 100%. It's like an arrow. You can look down that and it's perfectly aligned with that one, and vice versa on the other side. So I'm pretty good this way. I'm pretty good. Well, actually, I'm really good this way. I'm really good this way. I just want to make sure I have a really tight door gap in there. I'm probably overdoing this. I don't know what the factory spec was on door gaps on a LandRover, but I'm shooting for like a good 1/4 inch in either side here. Actually, if you happen to know the door gap spec of a 1972 Series 3 LandRover, please let me know in the comments. Because since I'm restoring this thing back to its original factory state, I really have to get perfect door gaps in there. So I will totally hold off. I'll hold off on where we are right now until I get a measurement, so I can just, you know, make sure it's 100%. Thanks very much. All right, so the LandRover frame is kind of back together now. You can see where I chopped the old one off and inserted the 2x4 framing into the frame, and then just cut it, angled it, and welded it all in. This is just temporary here to hold the two frame halves apart when I chop the frame off, just in case it boing and twisted and went somewhere else. Anyway, but since then, I had the leaf springs de-arched. I sent those out to a spring shop and they unbent them, making them a little flatter. And then I stuck the 3-inch lowering blocks in there. I'm probably gonna end up having to, see how bouncy that is right now. I'm probably gonna end up having to C-notch the frame here for the suspension to travel up inside of it. And I still need to make the shock mounts, or there's the shock mount plates, but I still need to make the shock mount uppers. But I'm probably going to, when that C-notch is there, I'll make a 1/4 inch, you know, bent plate to hold that, but also act as the shock mounts. But I think it's time for the cross member, but I don't want to do that because I'm going to try to coincide that with the transmission cross member. So I think it's time to stick the engine in there. Here it is here. So pull the front fender off. Let's jack this up, stick it in the hole, see where the transmission's gonna end up, and think about a cross member in there. I'm hoping it lines up right in that hole right there, so I can make a plate that goes from side to side, or plate that up and make a cross member that goes side to side there. So I think mathematically it's almost in the right space, but we'll see. Let's get to it.
Yo voy a cantar esta canción, yo voy a cantar esta canción para mi gente. Con una pasión tan fuerte. Ay, 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 ay.
So of course, after describing the frame to the LandRover, I forgot to install the box. So there you go. I just wanted to show you what the final product looked like. Of course, it looks just like a LandRover, as it should. A couple of differences though. You can see the S10 frame sort of swoops up there a little bit into the seat section. That'll get covered. On the far side, I need to make a gas tank though. The original gas tank's not going to fit. These things obviously get pulled up into position there and they'll get bolted down. So that's just hanging low right now. Same on the other side, that just gets bolted up. All the flanges are there to bolt the cab to the box to the frame, but it's just sitting on there for now. You see all the rear flanges as well. You got to clean up some of the damage here yet, but I kind of don't mind that little bit of character. A couple of rust holes, character holes, or something. Anyway, let's get this engine in and determine where that cross member is. Determine where that cross member is going to go. All right, so that wasn't too bad. It's kind of just wedged in there for the moment. I'll have to relief cut that a little bit more, the firewall there, and plus I gotta pull it into the center to make sure the tailstock is centered between the frame rails, right? But it's literally just hanging from a chain right now anyway, but that's its first look anyway. Criteria here is making sure it's getting underneath the hood. You can see that sort of line there, that's the top of the hood. So there's the air cleaner. Of course the engine needs to rotate a little bit, but I think I'm just gonna wiggle it into position now. This is basically where the radiator sits right there, and the fan's not going to work in this case, so I'll have to run an electric fan, but I got lots of room between the front of this and the radiator, so I can have enough room for an electric fan in there, and that's great. Lots of room for a oil cleaner in there, and lots of room for the exhaust tubing to run underneath the engine there. So, and the shifter's in and about the right spot. So the edge of the floor is here, and that's kind of right in the middle. So I'm thinking that's kind of where its home is gonna be. Transmission crossmember didn't come as far backwards as I was hoping. You can see the opening there, but I can easily have the crossmember here, make a plate to carry this, and then go right across. So it's almost, it's kind of right in the middle of it. I can work with that. So we'll cap that, make a cross member, make the mounts front. For the front, see, I'll have to, there's a mount there. I'll have to make a plate that carries it and maybe welds to the suspension mount down there just to hold that in place. But that's the easy stuff. So let's get going. And now the engine has been installed. You can see I still have to pull the motor back out and finish off some of the welds and build some brackets around there, but they're more or less in. The engine's where it's gonna sit. All the mounts are in, so I can't see it of course, but I got some welding to do in there. And the transmission cross member, I end up filling in those holes, both sides there, and then just recycling the original cross member across there, and it worked out. So, and the shifter is in a perfect spot. I'll put the pan back in a minute, the seat pan, you can see where that's gotta go. Also, that's gonna be a problem just because you can see there's so much room on this side. I don't need this much room. I've got at least between the back of the motor and there, maybe, 6 inches I could bring this way. So I think that'd be a really good spot for the computer. So I'm going to cut this pan back out, bring the what do you call that? The dashboard, the back of the dashboard, and just bring that straight across, and then maybe make a recessed unit so I can put the computer in there for the engine. And then that'll give me a little bit more room up there. What else? Oh yeah, the fuel tank's the next biggest concern that I have to think about at this stage anyway. So the original LandRover has the fuel filler on that side. So that's not going to work for me on this side because of where this is. I have the original S10 tank, and it's on that side, but I need the filler neck to go on the inside of the frame rail, not there. I guess I could do something like put an elbow in and go over to a tank, because I'm not really doing anything on this side of that whole frame there. So maybe the plan is to leave it on this side, just make a tank. Maybe just make a tank. Make a stainless tank, then I'll use the old fuel sender and I'll weld it into the top and just make an elbow from here into the tank that's hidden underneath the seat pan anyway, so that might work. All right, put that down on the possible list. Radiator clearance, got lots in there, so I'll pull that fan off and run an electric fan on this one, I think. And then I can start redoing all the wiring and putting it where it needs to go. But even before I get into any of that, I'm going to send this frame out to be sandblasted. So, and now I also have a dimension for the rear drive shaft, so I'll send that out to get made. Still waiting for my U-bolts to come in. Jesus, man, that's taking forever. And yeah, let me mock up the seat pan, then you can see that too. So that's the seat pan. It's a little rough. You see the corrosion of the water and everything that was sitting inside the seat over all those years, but I'll probably end up just cutting that out and making a whole new panel for it. I mean, it's just aluminum, why not, right? Make it look better. You see where the transmission now sits in relation to the old hole there, so I'll have to reshape this, and of course I'll reshape that anyway. And the shifter's in a perfect spot there, so that's fine. See, if I put the gas tank on this side, then I can use that side as like a glove box storage toolbox underneath the seat. I don't know yet. TBD on that one. Because then I could just take that fuel filler neck off of that side, put it on this side, and put make a tube that goes down through the floor into the gas tank. I'm starting to like that option more, actually. We'll still leave it on the TBD list though. Oh, I know. Let's put the hood on too, so we get a better vibe of how this thing's gonna look. something like that. So it is off the jack stands now. It is considerably lower. The guys that I got this S10 frame from, looks like they torched the springs. I've still got some 3-inch drop spindles to put on this, so it'll have probably about 3 inches of ground clearance when all this is said and done, but it's pretty low now for a Land Rover. I don't know. Of course, now I want to put the fenders back on too, just to look at it. Just to look at it. Alright. Let's put this piece on. Good enough. Alright, well that's starting to look a lot better. Yeah. So another 3 inches lower. I think I'm going to build a really cool flat bumper for that. Something you can sit on like a park bench. Yeah, that'd be fun. Still got to rebuild the doors completely. That's on the to-do list. But basically I'm just working with an aluminum skin and I got to build the entire subframe for what's left of it. There's also like a 2.5 inch skirt that goes across the bottom of that. Got to get that back on. Yeah. I dig it. I don't know if you can tell how low this is, but it's just going to get lower. I'm digging this thing. I'm digging it a lot actually. I think I'm going to call that a wrap on this video. We've done a lot in this one. Can't keep dragging you through it. But I think in the next one, we'll probably end up modifying the firewall, building a floor pan, getting that drive shaft made, actually hanging it on its rear suspension because the axle is just sort of mocked up in there right now. The wheel's just floating in there. Probably deal with a front bumper, something cool on that. And then send it out for sandblasting. I want to get that chassis looking all super duper fancy. Oh yeah, and the doors, got to build the doors. So that's going to be a whole lot of time lapse. But if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Always appreciate that. And if you want to see more, subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.